Warning, this podcast contains explicit sexual language and should only be listened to at work if you're looking for an excuse to connect with your HR representative. Additionally, all mentions of the word women include cis and trans women. For my friends who are genderqueer, gender fluid, figuring it out, anything in between, and feel like this conversation is also important for you, you are welcome here.
Will you open up with me? These pages, they can feed your innermost desires. Do you feel inspired? Are you getting what you need? Are you coming curiously? A secret safe with me. And here you can simply be yourself. Sweet romance. Come on in, come on in, come on.
Hi, y'all. This is Jace, she, they, and you found Jace Reads Romance, a community dedicated to empowering women about sex and sexuality through the reading of romance novels. I have completed it. And by it, I mean my conferences for 2024. All of them. I've already broke Sephi. Like, y'all, I broke her very early. And someone who, I don't know if I've shared this with you all. I never went to a book conference before this year, before Jace Reads Romance. And part of it is that I have a very close group of friends that I can talk about books to, all the weird, kinky, schmexy books that I talk about and read about. I have people I talk to about them and all the things in my life that I do. There are people for whom I get to do this in real life or on the internet because we're separated. And part of the reason why Jace Reads Romance is a thing is because y'all might not have that, and I want to be that for you because it's been so instrumental for me. But I realized, oh my goodness, many people go to book conferences. It sounds like such a dumb thing to say when I say it out loud, but I didn't need it, so I didn't ever look into it. Really entering the bookish space from this new lens and with this new intention, I decided, you know what, maybe book conferences will be a thing that I will enjoy as a consumer of romance, maybe as someone who talks about it. Is this something that I would want a table for? I don't know. There was just a lot of ifs, a big question mark over what are book conferences. Yeah. And if you ask anyone who's not in the romance sphere or not in some sort of fandom, they go, like the big Frankfurt Book Fair? No, that's for publishers. And that's totally separate. There are book conferences for publishers, but that's so well known that is a question that I've gotten multiple times. Is it like that one, or why aren't you going to that one? I don't need to go to that. It's not my space.
No.
So this year I went to 4 book conferences, and I will say this year, even though it's not the end of 2024, because I have no other conferences that I am planning to go to. And I felt like I got a very well-rounded experience. Next year, I plan to go to all 4 of these again, plus some others. I will let you know what they are as it happens. I know I've got some like really exciting shit planned for next year.
Yay.
But the 4 in chronological order were Wild and Windy Chicago, Steamy Lit Con, Romance Con, and Smut Lovers the Conference. And all 4 of these had some sort of author signing experience. And I think that's what's most well known about book conventions when you think about it, is it's an opportunity for readers to connect in person with authors, to get books signed, some people will give gifts. Taylor Swift has invaded everything. People make bracelets. So there are a lot of bracelet exchanges, notes. People make handcrafted projects and stuffies and things. It's really beautiful. If you are a crafty person, this is your opportunity to express yourself via crafts to authors. And if you're not a crafty person like myself, it doesn't fucking matter. You can just go. But primarily what book conferences are known for is that opportunity to be in connection with authors. what most of them have, and if that's their intention, that's great. What most of them have are also panels where authors get an opportunity to either touch upon a topic that's important to them, or where authors of specific subgenres can come together to be in community and have their fan base talk to them. Are you picking up what I'm putting down?
Yes. I'm following.
You're following. Now, different book conferences can have different intentions depending on who's running them. There can be different themes for the authors and therefore the fans. So just going through what each of the conferences that I went to were. So Wild and Windy is kind of a general book conference in the romance sphere. There are a lot more indie authors at this event, but it is not a subgenre. So it's spans all of romance. There's romantasy, there's sports, there's dark, there's contemporary, there's a lot. It is also run by a company that is now either in charge of or taken over or something. There are now 3 cons under this one umbrella company: Wild and Windy in Chicago, Love in Vegas in Las Vegas, and then Windy City West in Phoenix. So those 3 cons are all run by this same company, these same people. Then chronologically, Steamy Lit Con, it's its 2nd year. It is run by Mel and Cookie. Mel, you might remember from an earlier episode of the podcast back in May. And it is a nonprofit. Mel and Cookie do not get paid for anything they do for this conference.
Really?
I know. I was shocked. I did not know that either. I was shocked when she announced it. And I went, girl, you deserve so much money for the work that goes into this. I cannot believe you.
I mean, yeah.
I want them. But it is in there. It's intended to be a nonprofit, a fundraiser, and an opportunity to promote diversity in romance. So their goal is to have diverse authors. So they have a very high percentage of BIPOC and queer and even men and men at their tables.
Even men.
And so that's their intention. And so at that conference, a lot of conversations were about diverse communities, panels of people in various minorities or marginalized communities, as well as bigger conversations about what needs to happen, rather than just, oh, this is the romantasy panel or the sports romance or whatever it was, which was more prevalent at Windy City. Not that that's bad, but because that's not their intention. Their intention isn't, let's talk about diversity, equity, inclusion in romance. That they're just here for the romance. Steamy Lit was about diversity, equity, inclusion in romance. And therefore they made a real big effort to have panels that opened up these discussions where you could hear from various authors. And then they also had things like a fandom where they talked a lot about fanfic, you know?
Yes.
A topic I know nothing about, but
I'm slowly educating you. It's okay.
I wish you'd actually been there at Romance Con with me. So that was Steamy Lit. But then Romance Con is the first year of this conference, and it is put on by a company that does other cons, a Broadway con, a Leaky con, and they decided the thing that they wanted to do next was a Romance Con. So they are professional conference people as opposed to professional romance people. And I will say they did a fantastic job. There was a lot of indie. It might also be because Rare, which is reader and author events, it's an international company that puts on book cons. They had their big conference in Edinburgh that same weekend. So a lot of trad or more popular authors were in Edinburgh that weekend. I fucking love Edinburgh. And so they had a lot of indie. Their panels were a combination of writing consent in sex scenes and vampires, werewolves, witches, oh my. So PNR panels. which was one of the best panels I've ever been on in my whole fucking life. It was at 9 a.m. on a Saturday. And that group of authors, I fell in love with you all. And I told you this.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's where Lucy Eden and I, like, she doesn't know this, but I'm obsessed with her as a human. Not even 10 minutes in, the question of, do vampires pee? And then how do they have erections? And she was like, I got this. Like, all of you, I have researched this and I know the answer. And I was like, the answer is kind of depending on your lore, but I love your confidence and I do respect your answer. If you want to know the answer is, no, they don't pee. It's very rare that anyone will have vampires who have like a functioning system for urination, but they're full of blood. Of course they have erections. And yes, they do have to be fed before they can get an erection. If they're running low, they won't get hard.
Which makes sense, actually.
Yes, it does. This is why this is lore. But this was all at 9 a.m. on a Saturday.
It's amazing.
It was
Lucy
honestly
was like, came with receipts.
She was so ready for it. It was unbelievable and everything I've ever wanted. And all of us were like, oh, do we have to leave? Is the panel over? Don't make us go home. Don't make us go to the next one. It was so great. Oh my God. And I was sitting next to another author that I became friendly with, and she and I were just fucking dying. Just dying.
I love it.
It was so amazing. And so they had a really nice combination of like fandom panels, but also, representation panels. So they had queer, they had fat representation, or bigger bodied, however you're going to say that. They did they called it like fat phobia in media and things of that nature. So that kind of, I think, was a nice bridge of the gap. And then Smut Lovers, which is a totally different ball game, y'all. Totally different, because that conference is really the conference part is geared toward authors, and their panels were all about educating authors on kink, so that kink primarily kink can be represented more accurately or with accuracy in novels.
Yay! Oh my God, that makes me happy.
So there's all day Thursday, all day Friday, these panels. And then Saturday, it was kind of more events. So I went to one that was like, whose smut is it anyway? Where I threw dildos into a pan of whipped cream because it was an improv game. Yes. Yes. There was a whole game on. It was really great. It's called like Let's Debate About It, where two people were given the topic of glow in the dark comments. One was for and one was against. And I was like, oh, yeah. The person who's for this is absolutely fucked. And it was Nick the Forge Bear, which made it even funnier.
Okay, you didn't say that.
That's why I saved it. Like watching Nick the Forge Bear try and be like, I mean, in the middle of the night, how are you going to find what you need to find unless it's glow in the dark? And all of us are like,
what?
What's wrong with you that you can't find it in the middle of the night? Also, does it just have a condom on it all the time? Because you gotta you gotta find the condom first. And I don't know if they're in, what if it's not in a clear packaging? Then your argument does not hold water.
I'm just imagining like Nick standing up there trying so hard to like debate the pros for this.
Here's the best part about that.
Yes, please.
Two people, and I do believe the person he was debating was not an internet personality, so I'm not going to name them. They were given small bullet vibrators and told to put them in not an inappropriate place, but just like a regular place. I think it was like between your knees or in your hands. One person did not put it between their knees or in their hands. It went somewhere else. And random people in the audience were given the remote controls. So randomly in the middle of their speeches, they would be like, oh my God. Yeah, it was great.
Oh, that's even better. Oh my God.
It was great.
I need to go with you next time. Like that needs to happen.
Tickets already are on sale. I already bought mine. I've already pre-ordered. Yes, I've pre-ordered this.
man.
It was so great. And then on day 3, so day 3 were those kind of like informal event things, just like bonding experience. They had some more demos, some more impact, some more other things. And then it was a 4-hour signing with authors who attended and authors who were attending and other authors who might have just shown up for the signing, just for readers. So you could buy a ticket to the con, which I did for all the
Yeah.
education, or you could buy a 1-day signing pass just for the like 4 or 5 hour block to connect with these authors.
Oh, I like that. I like that a
Yeah,
lot,
so
actually.
it was a combination of both.
Yeah, that's really good because then it caters to both like the authors, like you said, by offering them the education part of it so that they can better represent kink in their writing, but then also the readers so that they can get to meet their favorite authors and interact with them that way. That's really good.
It was really amazing. I had a really great time at it, and I'm going to break down the cons that I went to, and we'll talk a little bit more about why you might want to go and how I think you can get the most out of your experience at each con, because I think there were things that I did that were incredibly successful, and there were things that I would do differently and that I did differently as I learned more and more about what it was like to be in this space. So the first thing I have to say is you don't have to go to one ever. You don't.
Yeah.
Just because you are still a reader, you are still a passionate reader, you can still love these authors deeply with your whole spirit. If you never meet or see them in person, it doesn't matter. If it's not in your finances right now, you don't have to go. Some of these were quite expensive. They were an investment, not necessarily the ticket, but the travel, the hotel stays, getting food. Also, to be fair, maybe you have willpower and I do not, but there are really nice books there. I have not gone to a single conference and come home with the same number of books.
Yeah, but
So
you also pre-order series.
I don't. Actually, I pre-ordered a few at Wild and Windy. I only did pre-orders for 2 people at Wild and Windy.
Okay.
I only did actual pre-orders through authors. I only did 1 official pre-order for Steamulit, and then I did 0 pre-orders for Romance Con and Smut Lovers.
I'm so proud of you.
Oh no, I did 1. I did 1 for Smut Lovers. I did their charity anthology because they do a big charity thing, and so I pre-ordered their charity anthology so that I could have it because they sold out of that. They sold out of that thing so fast.
Oh, I bet they did.
Oh, I know. I'm really excited. It's currently being used to prop up my mic, so I can't show it to you.
We are DIY here, people.
Well, I got a lecture. If you were here for last week's episode where Michael had to make an announcement about my absolute shit sound, I got a tutorial on how I'm supposed to make it not shit. And that involves putting my mic in a place that the stand I currently have does not do. So MacGyver it is. And what better MacGyver than some thick-ass romance books holding my mic in place.
I love it. It's perfect.
Thick-ass romance books. So I think if you are new to conferences or you want to go, pick the one that is going to be the least effort for you to get to. And that's honestly what I did. The ones that I was most excited to because they really align with me and my values here at Joyce Reads Romance were Steamulit Con, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Romance, and Smut Lovers, representing kink accurately in romance novels. Yeah. And then I discovered Wild and Windy, and it's a couple miles from my house. It's just a couple miles. I can take public transit to that con.
Nice. Even better.
To that space. Even better. Yeah, I can take public transit to that space. So for me, I went into it and I found it. I was looking and I decided to go after tickets had already been on sale. So I found them through resale. So if you discover that there's a con near you, go. Most of these conferences have Facebook groups. Go to that group and there is usually some sort of ticket resale post where you can either post your interest and then people looking to sell theirs will go down the line and you might get a message, or people looking to sell will post and you got to be the first one to grab it.
Yeah.
And it just depends on who's organizing the Facebook group. They get to decide the rules for their posts. But that's how I got my Wild and Windy ticket. It was a resale.
Nice.
Yeah. And it was just I think it was just 3 months before the actual event. So I think tickets went on sale for it almost like 9 months before the event went on. And then 10 months, and I got it 3 months beforehand. So
that's not bad.
Just because you don't have a ticket now, just because an event is sold out does not mean that you can't get there or can't go. So that's number one. Find the one that's easiest for you. And just so that you can test it out. Transit, getting places, hotel stays, food, it can add up and feel really overwhelming really fast.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I liked about choosing Wild and Windy is I didn't know most of the authors. I knew some of them, but I didn't know most of them. And so it also gives you an opportunity to kind of break out of your box and find new authors. And I did that with Wild and Windy. You might remember, I think it was a great opportunity. I found some books that I really liked. Loved The Veiled Kingdom. That was just a phenomenal one. And I just kind of let myself be there for the experience. And when you're going, so that was Wild and Windy. And the next thing I'll say is, if you have a little bit more disposable income and you're willing and able to travel, finding cons that align with your values or align with what you read is going to be your next best bet. There are cons for everyone. There are cons for romantasy. There are cons for dark. There are cons for contemporary. There are so many. There is a monster con happening in Baltimore next May. I got to meet the person who's running that one. Cassie, thank you for chatting with me at a table and protecting me from performers. We don't have to get into that. But so there are all of these different types of conferences. And even if you don't know all the authors going, if you know a couple, those authors that are going to the cons as authors are people who are probably writing shit you want to read about. If you're like, oh, I love monsters, even if you can't go, going to these groups, going to their websites, finding what authors are participating in these types of conferences is going to be a great resource for you to find new authors that write the kind of stuff that you're looking for.
Absolutely.
So that's thing number 2 about book conferences. Okay, so you don't have to go. Find one that's easy. Find one that you love. And it's okay to go alone. I went to Wild and Windy alone, and I went to Wild and Windy alone, and I met so many great people there. I want to shout out like Rose and Adrian were 2 humans that just like took me under their wing. It's where I met Sheena and where I met Haley. Haley was on the podcast a couple months ago. Like you just get to meet people in line and get to talking, and they are humans that share things that you love. And especially if you're in line for specific authors, what books do you have? What books don't you have? Everybody wants to talk to other humans in this space because you're all here celebrating and loving on the same thing. So if you're going alone, don't fret, don't feel weird. A lot of these cons will have solo traveler, either Facebook Messenger groups where you can all talk about what you're doing and how to feel confident, especially if you're traveling, getting there on your own, being there on your own, getting dinners on your own. Some of the cons will even have solo traveler meetups so that you can meet people. I know it's really wonderful. Like they've thought really about it.
Yeah.
And so being there by yourself isn't scary. It's not, you will meet people and friends and like develop relationships that will continue. I feel really lucky that I got to go to Steamy Lit with someone that I didn't meet until June. I met them at a different event, a different bookish event. And they took me under their wing with a whole group of people that met for the first time at Steamy Lit the year before. These 9 people who did this one thing together. They have a text group and they're like, I was like, can you let me have dinner with you? And they were so wonderful and gave me advice. And then you see each other when you're in the signing rooms and you're like, hi, how are you? I'm going crazy. Do you have all your, it's just so wonderful to like build these relationships with humans while you're there. Romance Con, again, this friend was going there too. I'm like, hi, great, amazing. We're going to 2 cons together. That was the one where I got to meet a lot of authors. I don't know if we just had space to talk to authors because it was a smaller conference, but Romance Con and Smut Lovers for me were really the ones where authors and I got to have the most interaction. Mm-hmm. And that was really, really fun and special in a different way. Like we're going just as a fan. I get to talk to them about like, what do they do and what do they like and how does it work? And just so many things. When you're at a conference, do not feel like you have to do everything because these are really overwhelming days. There are hundreds, if not thousands of people in these spaces talking and moving, and you're standing and you're waiting in line and you're, trying to like be respectful of other people's time, but also get what you need out of the experience. And if you're an introvert, or even if you're not, and you just traveled a lot, make sure that you give yourself permission to take time for yourself, whether it's a solo lunch or just skipping an event, and so that you have the energy to do the things that you want to do. And also don't get upset with yourself if you miscalculate and you have to step out in a moment that you weren't planning on it.
Yeah.
So like we're all here to have fun, and the minute it becomes not fun, we need to get out of here.
That's really good advice. I like that.
Thank you. That's like that's like your emotional health advice. Here's some practical advice. Get a book cart. Get a book cart. Even if you show up with like one book, you're like, I'm only here for one author and one author only. You will need a book cart, because I think my favorite part of every single event that I've been to is getting to know authors via panels, whatever it is, however it is. And authors that I had no connection to before the conference started, suddenly I saw them at a panel. I was like, I'm in love with you. I need everything you've written. I need to meet you and shake your hand and have you stare deep into my eyes. And you will leave with more books than you showed up with. Or at the very least, a different plan or something of that nature. Even if you are an e-reader and you're like, I'm only going to read ebooks ever, there are so many pieces of swag. Like, no conference I've ever been to is only books. There are vendors. They do bookish things. They have tote bags and t-shirts and all sorts of stuff. You'll want a water bottle. You'll want snacks. Get a cart, because even if you're only carrying, 3 books from this one author, and your water bottle, it is heavy. Get a book cart. I also got a cup holder that attaches to my book cart. And that has been the most, that I can't tell you how many people are like, that's brilliant. And I said, I saw it in a Facebook Messenger group. Someone recommended it. Yes. I like to hydrate. I want my cup easily accessible.
I like to hydrate.
I do. I drink about 120 ounces at least a day of liquid. So far today, I've already consumed about 90. It's not
impressive.
Even noon.
That's impressive. That's more than me.
Yeah. My kidneys are strong. They are strong and resilient. I'm going to fucking break you one day.
That one was close. My kidneys are strong. Okay.
Now, in terms of other practical things, whatever cute shoes you thought you were going to wear, you're not. You're not wearing cute shoes, because you are standing for hours. If you need cute shoes, buy cute sneakers, whatever that means to you. Get rid of the ballet flats. Fuck no, get rid of the heels. Get rid of them all. You need some supportive ass shoes. I have worn these sneakers so much over this past year. They're smelly. I need to like get new ones because they're gross now. But yeah, they're gross.
Some Hokas, get you some good sneakers.
I need to find some sneakers, maybe bedazzle them with magenta glitter. If you know how to do that or you can do that, come at me.
You should look at Hokas. They're really like,
I don't know what those are.
HOKAS. They're kind of marketed towards nurses and medical professionals a little bit more. But
yeah, those are brilliant.
Yeah, they're
anything that a nurse can do shit in.
Yeah, but they have a lot of different colors. So they're fun. I have
not that I'm promoting them. They're not sponsored, but I have Allbirds. I have Allbird shoes. Those are the ones.
We're also not sponsored by Hoka.
We're not sponsored by Hoka, but the reason I use Allbirds is because you can wash them. So I just haven't washed them in a while. I'm gonna throw them in the fucking laundry. I know.
I wonder if you can do that with Hokas because they're mesh. They're not.
I don't know.
I'll
do more research when we're done recording. The other thing, so comfortable shoes. Mm-hmm. If you are someone who is heavily affected by temperature, dress in layers. 12 light layers in a parka. I'm kind of joking. That's what you need to wear in Chicago from like March, from, like September until June. 12 light layers in a parka. That's my regimen. But if you're someone who gets hot really easily, make sure that you have removable layers. If you're someone who gets cold really easily, get a scarf. I'm someone who gets cold really easily, and I can't tell you how often I've been like, shit, I wish I had like one more layer in this panel room, because if you didn't know, the settings for air conditioning in corporate spaces were set to the metabolic needs of men in the 60s when they were wearing 3-piece suits every day to work.
I did not know that. That's a very interesting tidbit of information.
Doesn't it answer all of your questions about why it's always freezing?
So many.
Always. Why is it always freezing in here? Because it's meant for men 20 to 40 or 20 to 50 who are wearing full suits every day to work.
And like y'all probably know this. I work overnights at a hospital. It is probably 60 to 65 degrees overnight in the hospital. Mm-hmm. So that makes so much sense. So much sense.
It's miserable. It's miserable if you're a woman trying to look cute, because women aren't supposed to cover up if they're cute, which is a whole other podcast.
Yes.
And then the last practical bit of information that I'm going to give you is set a budget. However you budget. I know for Wild and Windy, I literally brought cash. I was like, this is how much I can spend in cash with me. And depending on the conference, not all authors will take it or whatever, but have a budget in mind. It's okay. Yeah. If you want to connect with authors, but also you don't buy books or it's not in your budget, you can bring things for them to sign. I have 2 posters that Steffi can see, one from Smut Lovers and one from Romance Con, that are just things that I had authors sign. So now I have keepsakes of these events that I didn't think about for Wild and Windy or Steamy Lit. It just didn't occur to me. So I don't have things from them. The memories will just live on in my mind. And that's a great way to connect with authors.
Yeah. You could do like this trend that has been popping up on TikTok where you find really old pictures of people and have them sign it. Like they're finding like old like high school photos of famous football players and be like, will you sign this for me? And they're like, what
that is
the hell?
So great. That's great. I really love that. I love that so much. I've seen some really clever shit, y'all. Like there are some people doing clever things. If you are not clever, like I am not, go to Etsy. Go to
Yes.
Etsy.
Yeah.
There are people who make signing canvases. The one that I got for RomanceCon, it was a digital download. I paid a very small amount of money for it and then got it printed at the UPS
Nice.
store. So
Nice.
for a pretty small amount of money. The one for Smut Lovers is the one that they organized. They had them for sale and I didn't realize how small it was, but I'm okay with it because big things come in small packages.
This coming on the heels of our August forearms episode.
Which is going to be airing after this episode. So sorry, you won't get the joke for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, sorry, guys. Sorry, everybody.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So the last piece of advice that I'm going to give for general conferences is go to the panels, because I have found that for me, it is so much more impactful to hear authors talking about things that they're passionate about. And if they're not passionate, they're not on that panel.
Mhm.
And getting to know them through that medium. It is the way that I've found so many new authors. It's the way that I have been able to connect with them one-on-one or after the conference ends. I saw you on this panel. I thought you were brilliant. You really put that fucking moderator in their place. You inspired me in some way, shape, or form. And it makes a really big difference. Rarely, even in the signing rooms, you're getting maybe a couple minutes, depending on how fast they need to go with these authors, but you get 45 minutes to an hour in a panel to watch them interact with their peers and answer questions from you. If you have been to any of these conferences, you probably saw me. I really made it a point to ask questions in every panel that I attended, except Smut Lovers, and we'll talk about why in a little bit. But I, partially because it's my job and I like practicing my questioning skills, my interview skills. But you've probably seen me. You're like, who the fuck is that bitch asking all the questions? It's me. It's me, friends.
I was going to throw a Taylor Swift quote in there, but I know that will go like right over your head.
Is it I'm the problem?
Yeah.
I know it because that lick of it is all over the internet, but I don't know the song. I don't hate Taylor Swift. I don't hate Taylor Swift, y'all. I'm just not well versed in Taylor Swift. No. Let's be very clear.
There's no hatred from either of us.
There's just a lack of understanding.
I'm a little bit more versed in Taylor Swift because my coworker is a massive Swiftie. So I have a lot of Taylor Swift lore in my brain. Jace is not as educated.
I think my friends who are Swifties just look at me and go, she's a lost cause. There's no hope for her.
I will just admit on just a side note that her latest album, The Tortured Poets Department, is brilliant.
I have listened to it. It is long.
It is long, but I'm very much a lyrics person, and this is a very lyrical album, and it's kind of, I really like this album. Yeah.
That is true. 100% respect to it. So a big part of these conferences, most of the ones that you're going to find, are intending to connect authors and readers, an opportunity for readers to speak with authors connect with readers, to sell a crap ton of books, pre-orders. Authors will also do special editions and various things to entice you to buy. Not entice you to buy books, but I have the special edition, the signing copies of all the House of Lords, and I thought it was a completed series. It's not. What the fuck am I supposed to do with the next books that come out? They need to match. I'm very upset about it. So that's my own personal thing. Don't worry. I'll survive. It's okay.
I'll get to hear all about it, everybody. I'll get to hear all about it.
I just need to double check if she's going to be at any of the cons that I go to next year. And if she's going to match, if they're going to match, they need to match.
I get it.
I know. So I loved the experience. I loved getting to meet authors. I loved getting to meet readers, making friends. I loved the opportunity to learn more about authors that I never heard of before by looking at the list, especially if you're going to conferences that have an intention, a theme, a filter on them. It is so helpful to be like, hey, I'm really into monsters. I'm going to go look at the Monster Conference in Baltimore. I'll put a link in the show notes if I can find it. I'll message Cassie. I'll get a link in the show notes for what that is.
There you
go. Because that's what I want to read. Even if you can't go, even if you live in Alaska and there's no way you're getting your butt to Baltimore, even though I'm pretty sure it's also sold out. So you have to join the Facebook group to get a ticket. Congratulations to her. Or maybe it's you have an author that you love, and some authors organize book conferences and you follow them and you want to go see what they're doing. There's so many opportunities to connect and get involved and enjoy yourself and have the most fun. It's the first time I got to buy and wear a giant tulle skirt to a masquerade ball.
That's so fun.
I got to buy a corset to go to a Moulin Rouge themed after party.
Okay. That's awesome.
Oh my gosh, so much fun. And what a beautiful experience overall. I'm so happy that I got to do it. And that's all I'm going to say in this episode. You saw that this is part 1. I know it's the header. I put it there. I know it's the header. Part 2 is really going to be about what can you learn at romance conferences? Like how can we grow through going to, and I'm really going to delve into Smut Lovers, which in and of itself is a different kind of conference whose focus is education, and why I think that that's more important. And conferences like Smut Lovers need to become, I would love to see more conferences like Smut Lovers come into the circuit and start to be created so that the conversations that we were having about this one very specific thing there can happen in different avenues at a greater scale and involve more people. So come on back for part 2. That's it for today, y'all. This has been a 3 Paws Productions podcast. Our producer is Sephi. Michael Achenbach is our patient editor. Our theme song is written and performed by Diana Weishauer. You can find show notes and so much more at jacereadsromance.com. That's JAYCE Reads Romance. Follow along on TikTok and Instagram at Jace Reads Romance. If you'd like to ask a question or share a story for the podcast, call and leave a message at 661-JACE-RR. That's 661-529-2377. Or send an email to jace@jacereadsromance.com. Finally, like and subscribe so you can get every episode when they drop. You can also leave us a review to help others find us. And remember, this is Jace holding space for you.